I'm out in my dream, you dream.
The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. Brought to you by the National Cannabis Coalition.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Yeah, welcome tokers and tokettes. It is Wednesday, June 27th, 2012, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us here at Rolla J Studios in beautiful Portland, Oregon, the only place in the United States that's not over 100 degrees or being deluged in rain at the moment. We've been getting reports from people all over the country saying they're suffering through a heat wave, or our friends in the southeast that are getting drowned right now. So we hope you're all doing okay. We're hoping that our show helps take you through some of it. Sitting over to my right, we got Wiz Kaliko hanging out in the studio today. How you doing, Kaliko?
Aloha, doing quite well. Not as well as our friends in Colorado, who of course are facing evacuation in a lot of places.
Oh, I forgot the wildfires.
Yes, Colorado Springs up in flames. So I want to give a shout out to all of our listeners and all of our friends and family out in Colorado. Hope you're all safe.
Yeah, we got a lot of friends out in Colorado, and we want to make sure that they're all okay. So our love goes out to you. Also sitting in the engineer's seat again today, we have got Brian the Red hanging out with us. How you doing, Brian?
I am here and online.
Ganja John is out taking care of the legal issue that is being a registered medical marijuana patient. So he'll be back, and maybe that's him coming down the stairs. We don't know, but we will. He is. You can't keep him away. Ganja John. Move. Ganja John says move. He's in for the day.
I'm taking my headphones.
Glad to see you here. All sorts of fun folks. Adam Hand is here from Handmade Apparel as well. Joining us from our virtual studio in Astoria, Oregon, we have our news editor, Carrie Gallagher. Hello, Carrie.
Hello.
Oh, good to hear from you, Carrie. You're not on fire or drowning up there in Astoria, I hope.
No, I feel bad for all of our friends that aren't experiencing what we're experiencing, but I wish you could all come out here. It's one of those amazing, gorgeous days on the Northwest Coast. Sunny skies and beautiful views everywhere you look.
Yeah, it's one of those days that makes waiting through all that rain worth it. It's just beautiful, but I suppose we're getting more rain on the weekend, so don't get your hopes up too high here. Carrie brings us the headlines right after the first break, so what do we have in the news today?
Well, today in the Daily Cannabis Chronicles, we've got some big news to announce. Of course, some huge news out of Chicago. We're going to talk about that. Also, we've got a ruling in Michigan that is really interesting, Russ. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about it. And a bill on the East Coast that failed its last chance. I'm going to give you that news as well.
So a little good, a little bit of bad. You take them both, and there you have the facts live, right?
That's right.
We will also get to our regularly scheduled segments that we have today. On Wednesdays, longtime listeners of the show will know that we always have our Cannabis Q&A with Dr. Mitch Earlywine from SUNY Albany. He'll be taking your live questions through our chat room and through our call-in line at 971-533-7111. If you're not on the chat, get on at ncr420.com during our live show. You can get those questions answered. Then at 45 past the hour, I'm going to be playing more video from the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup that we had just this weekend in the Bay Area. It's the video of Richard Lee, the proprietor of Oaksterdam and coffee shop Blue Sky, receiving his Lifetime Achievement Award from Rick Cusick and the folks at High Times Magazine. magazine. I got a request from Dale Sky Jones to play that today, so I decided I was going to. We'll play that right after the Dr. Mitch Q&A. And then in hour 2, we're going to take your calls again at 971-533-7111. And we have got a little bit of radical rant coming at you on the Constitution-free zone in America. Plus, we'll have more from Ganja John. How's it going, Ganja John?
We're going to have a good time in the second hour because we have our special in-studio guest, Adam Hand from Handmade Apparel.
Oh, that's right. HandmadeApparel.biz, where you get all the great Russ Belville Show merchandise and more. Ganja John Show stuff as well. We'll bring all that to you and more coming up on the next couple hours here on the Russ Belville Show. So stick around. Back after this.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com. Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show. You're listening to the Normal Network, where the time is 420, 24/7, 365. Except Cannabis Carry's house, where the laws of space and time do not apply. Marijuana is not going to re-legalize itself. You've got to do your part. Join the National Cannabis Coalition today at nationalcannabiscoalition.com. Medical marijuana, industrial hemp, ganja sacrament, consumer cannabis. The topic of marijuana is heating up the news, and the Russ Belville Show catches you up with today's latest headlines. Now, here's our senior news editor, Cannabis Carey, with the Daily Cannabis Chronicle.
They expected a victory in Chicago, but it was also a landslide decision by the Chicago City Council today. A marijuana decriminalization bill that was first brought to the City Council last November has passed as law in Chi-Town, and the council passed it on a 43-3 vote. Any amount of marijuana possession in the city is currently a crime worthy of a fine of up to $1,000, 6 months in jail, and a disastrous and life-altering criminal record. The aldermen of Chicago have changed that law so that less than 15 grams of marijuana is only going to get you a traffic light ticket, a fine of $250 to $500, but most importantly, it changes the law so that a small amount of marijuana will no longer saddle you with a criminal record. The mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel, has given his support to the measure, but only after ordering a study of the potential effects of the new law and after the Chicago Police Superintendent Gary McCarthy lent his support. The law was intended to allow more time for police resources to be given to serious crime. There is speculation that the marijuana decriminalization law passed so easily because the homicide rate in Chicago is up a staggering 50% over this same time last year. Other violent crimes are also up this year. The new law will allow for the police to increase their street patrols and spend much less time processing those low-level marijuana offenders. Police can stay on their beats, keeping their peace, instead of back at their desks filling out paperwork. Danny Solis, who sponsored the measure, estimates that the city will save millions just in the first year. And by giving tickets without the added expense of court processing and jail time, Solis says that the city of Chicago should have a net gain of around $7 million this year alone. Chicago is just the most recent place in the nation to roll back their marijuana crime punishments. Earlier this month, the governors of both Rhode Island and New York had given their support to similar decriminalization efforts. Police Commissioner McCarthy said in a statement that the 18,000 people that were arrested for less than 10 grams of marijuana last year tied up 45,000 police hours. He said that now police officers would not have to disappear for hours at a time when neighborhoods like the city's south and west sides need them the most.
Well, yeah, this is the thing that they're all discovering is that there's much more serious things to have to deal with in this country than whether or not people are smoking a little bit of pot. All right, 43-3 decision. Anything less than 15 grams. 15 grams about what? Half an ounce? A little more than half an ounce. A $250 to $500 fine. The only thing that's sad about this to me is what it takes to get them to realize that we need to change these laws. And that is the money aspect of it, right? They should be changing the law. They should be decriminalizing it just because it's wrong. It's wrong to punish people for their personal use of marijuana. The city, the state, the feds, they have no right, they have no need, no duty to have to interrupt our personal private business. If we choose to pick a flower and dry it and smoke it, what business of that is it to the police or the government or the president or anybody out there? I just don't understand why they still feel the need to have to punish us. Now, as Jody Emery says, if you've got the chance to go from a 1 hour beating to a half-hour beating, you take the half-hour beating. And so this decriminalization thing, while it still punishes pot smokers, well, it's far better than being put in a cell, and it's far better than being given a criminal record for the rest of your life and being thought of as a drug criminal and all the associated side effects that can happen with that. So it is, of course, a good thing. We're glad to see it happen. And change does have to happen in these small steps. But it is pretty remarkable that we have someone like Rahm Emanuel, who was in the Clinton administration, who was in the Obama administration, who's been a longtime opponent of marijuana, any sort of liberalization of marijuana laws. He was the guy that tried to go after the doctors when California passed Prop 215 back in 1996. It's amazing that he now presides over, the fourth largest city in America that has decided on such a landslide vote to no longer treat pot smoking as a crime. It's amazing the change that's happened, and it's going to continue to happen. We're going to continue to bring it to you here on National Cannabis Radio.
And the New Hampshire Senate failed to override Governor John Lynch's veto of a medical marijuana bill. Passing both houses, the bill to allow medical marijuana landed on Governor Lynch's desk last week, where he did as he promised and vetoed that bill. Both the House and the Senate met today, they called it Veto Day in New Hampshire, to vote on legislation that the governor had vetoed this session. Governor Lynch had a busy week this week. He vetoed nearly a dozen bills that all had a second chance today to gain some votes to try and push them over the authority of the governor's pen. The medical marijuana bill sailed past the House, but only narrowly passed in the New Hampshire Senate. The Senate would have needed a two-thirds majority to override a veto threshold that they just couldn't reach. The medical marijuana bill before the Senate would have allowed patients with debilitating medical conditions to possess up to 6 ounces of marijuana and 4 mature plants and as many as 12 seedlings, as long as the site where they were growing it had been registered with the state. It was that home grow aspect that the governor has a problem with. Democratic Governor Lynch said that allowing so many potential growing sites for marijuana would make it impossible for the state to monitor distribution, and with that, also illegal use. The governor said that he opposed authorizing teenagers to use marijuana for treatment. Governor Lynch said that the measure did not put in enough restrictions on the cultivation of marijuana, adding, quote, "I cannot support establishing a system for the use of medical marijuana that poses risk to the patients, lacks adequate oversight and funding, and risks the proliferation of a serious drug," unquote. Lynch vetoed that bill last week. That is the second time that he has vetoed a medical marijuana legislation that passed both houses and landed on his desk for signature. The bill failed in the Senate on a 13-11 vote the first time around, and they voted the same this time around. That bill fell just 3 votes shy of being veto-proof. And just to look ahead, I do want you to know Governor Lynch has been in office since 2004, and he did announce this year that he was not seeking re-election. So there is a spot for another governor to come along. Maybe won't be so veto happy.
Yeah, let's hope so. And let's hope that the activists there in the Granite State make this a major issue in the gubernatorial campaign that comes forth, because the next governor of New Hampshire cannot be so obstinate on passing medical marijuana. I mean, my God, your assembly has passed it with large majorities. Your Senate passes it with majorities. The people support it with majorities. And this one man, Governor John Lynch, has stopped it twice, vetoed it twice, prevented sick and disabled people from getting this life-saving and and life-enabling medicine. It's just disgusting that he would issue such, tired old talking points as worried about the risk that it will have to the patients or the proliferation of a dangerous drug. Come on, Governor Lynch. You got medical marijuana in Vermont, in Maine. It's coming to Massachusetts. It's coming to Connecticut. It's in Rhode Island. It's all around you. It's not as if New Hampshire having medical marijuana is going to cause the New England states to suddenly become, pot happy. They're already pretty pot happy as it is. You're just standing in the way and standing up for the pharmaceuticals, the law enforcement agencies, and all of those prohibition profiteers that just don't want to see this changed and are willing to let sick people suffer to try to stop some kid from smoking a joint.
And we have another Michigan court ruling to report on that affects patients in the state. A new Michigan Court of Appeals has declared that medical marijuana patients are not immune from arrest for possession of marijuana if they do not have their state-issued paperwork or registry card with them. Now, this was just part of the ruling in a case involving an Ottawa County man who was using a medical marijuana defense when he was arrested on May 1st of last year in Granville. The three-judge panel said that although the police were perfectly in their right to arrest James Nicholson, he would be immune from prosecution if he presented his medical marijuana paperwork in court. Now, the ruling that came down today says that state-issued medical marijuana registry cards and applications must be, quote, reasonably accessible at the location of an arrest for an individual to be immune from arrest. Nicholson had verbally informed the officers of his right to possess marijuana for medical reasons, and in circuit court, Nicholson produced his state-issued medical marijuana registry card that was dated from March, a few months before his arrest, as evidence that he could possess up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana. So the appellate court found that he could use it as a defense and sent it back to the lower court. But something else to consider, one of those appeals judges also had this to add in the ruling today, that the lower court still had the right to rule if Nichols was engaged in marijuana usage permitted under the 2008 law. The appeals judge wrote in that decision that, quote, the defendant still has one more hurdle to overcome to be entitled to immunity from prosecution. He must also establish that at the time of his arrest, he was engaged in the medical use of marijuana in accordance with the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. Now, this is just the latest court ruling that we have so far in a bunch of court rulings in Michigan. In May, the Supreme Court upholded the right to mount an affirmative defense even without a state-issue card. In April, an appeals court found in Michigan that the medical marijuana can't be used as a legal defense for driving while intoxicated. And last August, another appeals court ruled that medical marijuana dispensaries are illegal under the existing law.
Can I see your papers, please? That's pretty much what this amounts to. If you are a medical marijuana patient in the state of Michigan, got to carry your papers with you. You're just arrestable without your papers. How does that feel? How does that feel to be the kind of a citizen whom, without a specific government-issued piece of paper, you are subject to the long arm of the law? You are subject to arrest by state and local officers merely for possessing your medicine. Does it feel like medical marijuana has gone far enough for you people yet? Does it feel like you've got the freedoms that you deserve yet? Because it seems to me that medical marijuana is just not going far enough. It's allowing these people, these especially sick and disabled people, to continue to be treated like common criminals for merely using a medicine that their doctor has approved. And this, of course, is the situation that has to exist so long as we keep up with the absurd dichotomy of some people being sick enough to keep out of prison and some being healthy enough to put in a cage merely for using the dried flowers of the cannabis plant. It is just so ridiculous. In order to keep locking up people like me, we've got to make sure that we have a registry. We've got to have a list. Who's special enough to get on the list to be able to keep their freedom for using marijuana? And if you don't carry the proof that you're on that list, why, you're just another common criminal like me, and you can tell it to the judge. Oh, sure, you can get arrested and then get out of that arrest if you're a medical patient, even if you don't have your paperwork with you. But you have to go through all that booking and the time in the holding cell and maybe getting bailed out, calling your lawyer, having someone find your papers, bringing them down wherever. And as far as affirmative defense goes for the people that don't get registered, yeah, try going that route. Affirmative defense just basically means that you get arrested and then you are a criminal, in some cases a felon if you're growing, and then you got to tell it to the judge. You got to convince the judge that you would have qualified if but for whatever the problem might have been. Oh, I didn't turn in the paperwork. Oh, I didn't have the money, whatever it might have been. And then you got to depend on the judge, not a doctor, but a judge, to decide whether whether or not your sickness, ailment, or injury will qualify you for the protection of staying out of a cage. And don't forget that this affirmative defense that you're going to mount requires the assistance of a very well-trained attorney. This may cost you anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000 to mount that defense at the lowest. It could be higher depending on appeals and so forth. But basically, you're going to be spending 5 figures to be able to secure your right to stay out of a cage for using marijuana as medicine. Meanwhile, we got plenty of people that are going to bars and pubs. They're drinking and having themselves a good time. They don't have to carry any papers. They don't have to register with any doctor. They don't have to go to the state and give them their address and their name and pay them a protection fee every year. We got people that are smoking cigarettes by the cartonful. They don't have to register in any sort of way. They don't have to get any permission. Oh, sure, they got to go smoke in certain designated areas, but they're not getting arrested if they're not carrying a certain piece of paper. And of course, for those people that are using all the pharmaceutical drugs out there, as long as they've got their valid prescription, they're okay to go just about anywhere and they're not going to get arrested. It's time we got our rights in this country.
It's 420 back in Idaho, where Russ and Carrie were born. So we have to go connect with our roots. You know what I mean? Please support these sponsors who support the Russ Belville Show.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man.
We'll be back with some Irie Wednesday Daily Toker Tune music, a video from J-Boog, so stick around. It's the Russ Belville Show on National Cannabis Radio.
South Carolina, then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
Do you really want to legalize marijuana? Prove it. Join the National Cannabis Coalition at nationalcannabiscoalition.com, where your donations directly support PotNet and the Russ Belville Show. Free speech ain't free, you know. Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Irie Wednesday, featuring reggae, ska, and other world music genres. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tune.
All right, our good friend NorCal Perps, a.k.a. Kyle, is coming back to Irie Wednesday and bringing us a video from J-Boog. Before we get to that, though, I'm looking at the picture on our screen of Kyle with Robert Platshorn, a.k.a. Bobby Tuna, and that reminds me of some news that we're going to break here. Actually, Kaliko brought it to us, so Kaliko, maybe you could tell folks about what's going on the Randy Rhoads show, I guess it is?
Yeah, well, Randy Rhoads, obviously a pretty well-known progressive talk show host around the nation, is having a lady named Nicole Sandler fill in for her today, and one of the guests on Randy Rhoads' show is going to be Bobby Tuna. He's going to be talking about his new film that he's working with about getting grandma to smoke pot. I guess it's a television series. And he's going to be talking about his latest, tiff with the government. But
should grandma smoke pot?
Thank you.
There we go. Should grandma smoke pot? The new infomercial that Bobby's
30-minute infomercial.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, and so we are looking forward to that. If you can help folks, send a donation out to thesilvertour.org and help out Bobby Tooney. He really deserves it, and he's one of us, man. He's one of the freedom fighters. Did more time in prison for a nonviolent marijuana offense than anybody, man. 29 years he was in there. You can give him some of your help. Thesilvertour.org. So let's switch over to the video. Get Irie here for just a little bit. We are going to give you a little bit of, this is Jay Boog. I'm sorry?
There's Kyle on the
phone. Well, let's go to Kyle on the phone. I didn't realize he was there. Kyle, are you there?
Yeah, how you doing today, Russ?
Oh, sorry to step on the intro, man. I didn't realize you were there. Didn't see you pop up on the screen, but there you are. So tell us about the tune that we got for today.
Okay, well, we got one from our friend Jay Boog, born and raised in Southern California. He likes to embrace both his R&B and Pacific Island roots. In 2006, he moved back to Hawaii to record his album, which was released in 2007, entitled Hear Me Roar. Anyone in the Bay Area, if you happen to be free tomorrow night or Friday, there is a great concert going on starring Jay Boog, Catch a Fire, CRSB, and other great bands that are friends of the show.
All right.
So anyone want to come out and check it out, I encourage you to get out there.
All right. Well, let's go to the video again. This is Jay Boog coming at you with Let It Blaze. Thanks a lot, NorCal Perps.
Thanks, Russ.
What's the deal? It's 106 KMEL, Daddy Roll alongside Chewy Gomez, my man, My Emotion. Yeah. Right now, we about to get in a brand new joint by Jay Boog. It's entitled Let It Blaze.
Nice when police lock down the sound. It's like we're living in Alcatraz every day, with an overload of stress on the brain. Just let us stay, let us stay, let us stay, blazing high grade every day. Yeah, and let us stay playing roots reggae music always. Yeah, yeah, sweet smell of high grade blazing in the air. Sound man playing the music people want to hear. This is so for real, so Babylon know the deal and respect the vibration where you are feeling that just I love the ghetto used to share a love. I know war, so don't disturb the vibe star. Just a try to prosper, not trying to win an Oscar. Babylon Hill with J Booga utter. I know vibes when they high grade now born. And it's nice when police lock down the sound. It's like we're living in Alcatraz every day, with an overload of stress on the brain. Just let us stay, let us stay, let us stay, blazing high grade every day. Yeah, and let us stay playing roots reggae music always. Yeah, yeah. Jano, 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 Jano. Well, oh well, like so many of Dublin, I saw the world of high grade, natural from the earth. So Babylon, stop fighting. Now correct your thoughts and how you feel about it. Herbs and reggae music, the world can live without it. Just let the natural mystic flow. Let reggae music touch your soul. When it hits you, you will know. Got the feeling that you feel you're not alone. Oh, vibes when they high grade now born. And it's nice when police lock down the sound. It's like we're living in Alcatraz every day, with an overload of stress on the brain. Just let us stay, let us stay, let us stay, blazing high grade every day. Every day, yeah, yeah. And let us stay playing roots reggae music always. Yeah, yeah. This is for real. This is for real. This is for real. Well, alright. Sweet smell of high grade blazing in the air. Sound man playing the music people want to hear. Sweet smell of high grade burning in the air. Sound man playing the music people want to hear. No vibes when they high grade now, boy. every day. With an overload of stress on the brain. Just let us stay, let us stay, let us stay, blazing high grade every day.
Dear Dad, how should I say this? You know how you enjoy a drink after work? Well, in many ways, I'm just like you. I have a good job, I work hard, but when I get home, I prefer to relax with marijuana instead of alcohol. They're a little similar, but marijuana is actually less damaging to my health, and frankly, I don't feel like crap the next day. I hope this makes sense, but if not, let's talk.
Attention, National Cannabis Radio listeners. If you haven't heard the political pontifications of Lively and Mr. Libra on the Libra Lounge yet, be sure to visit here Wednesday nights at 6 Pacific or visit thelibralounge.com for archives and links to download current episodes. Be a lounger.
The Libra Lounge.
It's time for the Russ Belville Show's Cannabis Q&A with Dr. Mitch Earlywine. Dr. Earlywine is a professor of psychology at the State University of New York at Albany and a leading author and researcher on cannabinoids and health, who pins the Ask Dr. Mitch column for High Times Magazine. Get your questions ready in our live chat or call in to 971-533-7111 now.
All right, everybody, welcome to Cannabis Q&A with Dr. Mitch. We're going to get him on the Skype line right at the moment, so we're having a little bit of connection problems at this time. We will switch over to music for just a second here while we get him connected, and we'll be right back as soon as we have him on the line. Stay tuned.
For the band of Pix Band, first get your friend and smoke marijuana.
When I was young, my mother said to me, "Hey, Luke, you know you are very young, young, young." I say, "Hey, mommy, I know I'm very young because you are my mommy and I am your son." Now I'm grown
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
All right, folks, we're going to try to figure out what's going on with Dr. Mitch's connection, but until then, we've got video from Richard Lee. He was the honoree at the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup in the Bay Area just this last weekend, achieving a Lifetime Achievement Award. I got video with our Zoom camera from the audience, so it's going to be just as if you were there, even with the annoying glare. Unfortunately, they set up the pavilion, so the day ended with us facing the west side, and as the sun went down, we got a lot of sunlight coming through those glass windows, so I'm not sure how that's going to affect the video, but I think otherwise it's pretty good. Here you get to hear from Richard Lee himself, also a little introduction from Rick Cusick from High Times Magazine. So we'll turn it over to the video here. This is Richard Lee just this weekend, Sunday, at the High Times Medical Cannabis Cup 2012. Enjoy.
It is now our honor to present the High Times Lifetime Achievement Award. To honor our winner, please welcome High Times Associate Publisher, Rick Cusick.
Thank you. Richard Lee, Richard Lee, Richard Lee. Where am I? Richard Lee, let me hear it. Tonight, we honor Richard Richard Lee with the Dr. Lester Grinspoon Lifetime Achievement Award. For the past 3 years, and with Dr. Grinspoon's blessing, High Times has bestowed this award on a small but stellar group of individuals who have contributed a lifetime to the reform of marijuana law reform, and the achievements represent those seminal touchstones of ongoing history of cannabis. Each of those people who received their award, without exception, have put in more than 40 years of marijuana law advocacy. And they include, of course, Dr. Grinspoon himself, and after that, in no particular order, Keith Strzok, the founder of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, John Sinclair, the great activist, Michelle and Michael Aldrich. Let's hear it for Michelle and Michael Aldrich. And in February, in Los Angeles, we gave the Dr. Grinspoon Award posthumously to Jack Herrick. Yeah, Jack! All right. Now, since High Times magazine has been in existence for almost 40 years, it was pretty obvious that our first awards would be given to our friends who we knew from 40 decades in the trenches of this tragic America's war on drugs. Tonight, we are going to break with that tradition. Richard Lee has been active in marijuana law reform for less than a quarter century, and that makes him the new kid on this block. But in half that time, he has done so much more for this maligned plant. We at High Times all felt that Richard Lee richly deserved to be included in this extraordinary group of luminaries. Richard Lee is a businessman. More than 20 years ago, before he moved to California, he owned Legalized Marijuana, the hemp store in Houston, Texas. The name of that store says it all. Richard started out trying to promote the full range of possibilities that are encompassed by this beautiful plant. And before he was through, he would leave his mark on every aspect of our culture. As a businessman in 2002, he opened the Bulldog in Oakland, a Dutch-style coffee shop, the first of its kind, in open homage to the Dutch coffee shop model of cannabis business. For that reason, Oakland became Oaksterdam, and Richard Lee became its mayor. As an educator, in 2007, he opened Oaksterdam University, a unique institution of learning if there ever was one. And he and his staff taught endless numbers of gardeners how to grow the most prolific plant and the most prolific natural medicine in the whole world. And as an activist, in 2010, Richard donated over $1.5 million of his own money to kickstart Prop 19. And he kickstarted the national conversation about marijuana legalization in that process. And today, for the first time in the United States of America, 50% of Americans support the legalization of marijuana. A lot of that has to do with Richard Lee. All right. We missed legalizing marijuana in California by 4 percentage points, the closest we've ever gotten to marijuana legalization in this country ever. And the feds came in and they tried to shut Oaksterdam down. But now I gotta wait. It disappeared. They tried to shut Oaksterdam down. But in 2012, there is a brand new Oaksterdam University, and it survives and it will thrive with your help. The Oaksterdam Marijuana and Hemp Museum is moving into the old school space and will open its doors in July. When we think about Richard Lee at High Times magazine, we are reminded of another activist businessman who took all of his money, what they called ill-gotten gains, and he put it back into social reform. This happened almost 40 years ago. And Thomas King Prasad, a brilliant smuggler, businessman, activist, and revolutionary, put all of his money, became the #1 contributor to the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws from the 70s and up to including this day, because the organization that he started survives. That is the founder of High Times Magazine. And at High Times Magazine, we know an activist businessman when we see one. And Richard Lee is the real thing. We are all honored tonight to give the Dr. Lester Grinspoon Award to Richard Lee for extraordinary marijuana law activism. Richard, where are you? Thank you.
You're the one!
Thanks, but I really can't accept this award by myself. I will accept it on behalf of all the brave soldiers I've had the honor to lead into battle for the last 20 years. We had over 100 employees at Company Bulldog, Amsterdam. A couple, though, I have to single out. Larry Richards and Tim Sherwood were with us for almost 10 years. Those guys did a great job. But then there's one really special person who I wish could have been here tonight. She enlisted with me 20 years ago, started Legal Marijuana, the hemp store back in Texas, and a really brave person, Amy Doctor. We'd have a little round of applause for her. And then last, I want to thank High Times. I actually got started with High Times 20 years ago, before the internet. I was looking for information on legalization and how to get involved, and so I picked up a High Times and found the Re-Legalize It page that had a listing of all the reform organizations, and that's how I got started. And I read about hemp there. I read Jello Biafra's rant, I Blow Minds of a Living, and Jack, which was basically Jack Herrera's, and The Emperor Wears No Clothes, and the hemp information. And so I owe High Times, want to thank High Times for being there all these years fighting for legalization. So, and then thank all you guys and all the brave soldiers who are still out there fighting and getting busted. And like I say, I'm just one small soldier in a big war, and Amsterdam is just one battle. Thousands of battles, and we got to keep fighting. Thanks, guys, for being here.
Right on.
Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Lee.
Of course, Richard Lee from High Times Medical Cannabis Cup Awards in the Bay Area. A full crowd there in the sunlight enjoying the presentation. And, of course, Richard, soft-spoken as always, a man of few words, but many deeds. Fantastic work there, Richard. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us. When we come back, we're going to visit with Adam Hand from handmadeapparel.biz, and also we've got time for a little bit of radical ranting. We'll probably get to that first, and then take your calls in hour 2 at 971-533-7111. You're listening to the Russ Belville Show on National Cannabis Radio. Stick around, plenty still to come. Also, check us out on your mobile players now, available at m.ncr420.com.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation. The Normal Network brings you the best in daily toker tunes at 3 and 9 o'clock Pacific Time, AM and PM every weekday. Each day features a different genre, including Roots Monday.
Folks, here's a story about Minnie the Moocher.
Electric Tuesday. Irie Wednesday. Groovin' Thursday. And Rockin' Friday.
Some they like to hit the ball, some just hook the vibe.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant.
Well, folks, it is long past time that we had a boycott by musicians and artists of the state of Texas, particularly West Texas, particularly the El Paso area, because the latest news I got from Herb Thrasher today just has convinced me that this has gone on long enough and it is time for us to make a stand. We got word that our pal Chris Barnes and his bandmates from the band 6 Feet Under were detained in Hudspeth County, yes, you guessed it, Sierra Blanca, just outside of El Paso, following their show last night, and they were forced to spend the night in jail. Herb Thrasher also tells me that Mark Chimera from his band, Chimera, suffered a similar fate in West Texas. Now, these metal bands are big favorites on the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour, live every Friday at 8 o'clock right here on this network, but maybe you haven't heard of them. So let me give you some other names that might sound a little bit more familiar. Snoop Dogg, Willie Nelson, Paul Wall, Baby Bash. That ring any bells? All these musicians, as well as others like social network actor Armie Hammer and software developer / hacker GeoHot, are either victims of overzealous local police looking for an easy pot bust by tailing tour buses, or they have fallen victim to the infamous I-10 Sierra Blanca Border Patrol checkpoint. Now, the Border Patrol, you might think, being a rational human being, would be somebody that you'd encounter when you were, wait for it, crossing a border, right? But you can drive the entire length of the completely American freeway, Interstate 10, all the way from Santa Monica, California to Jacksonville, Florida. And the only borders you're going to cross along the way are California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. Not a single foreign country among them, except perhaps Texas. Yet the Border Patrol, and I don't know if you folks knew this, the Border Patrol has the legal authority to detain you, a U.S. citizen, for questioning without any sort of probable cause at any of their 32 permanent traffic checkpoints that are within 100 miles of the U.S. southern border with Mexico. Now, the putative reason why they're able to is to make sure that you're a legal citizen, right? Because within 100 miles of the border, maybe you got to cross and nobody's checked your papers yet. But the real reason, of course, is to stop you long enough for their drug dog to smell your weed and give the cops probable cause to search you. It's such a popular thing for the cops to do there, these Border Patrol cops, that El Paso's defense lawyers have specific Sierra Blanca checkpoint pages on their criminal defense websites. Now, I know you're thinking, well, Russ, that sucks, but I didn't want to go to West Texas anyway. Alas, this constitution-free zone doesn't apply only to the Mexican border. That 100-mile zone applies to all U.S. borders. That would include the Canadian border, of course, as well as the coastlines. That's right, because their borders with water, technically. And so that would include the Pacific coastline, the Atlantic coastline, the Great Lakes, and the Gulf of Mexico. Now, the American Civil Liberties Union took a look at this, and they found that within that 100-mile swath of every United States border, 2/3 of the U.S. population live. 2/3 live in this 100-mile swath where the federal police have sweeping federal power to detain American citizens without cause, to question them, and to search them. Now, according to the ACLU, quote, 9 of the top 10 largest metropolitan areas, as determined by the 2000 census, fall within the Constitution-free zone. The only exception would be number 9, the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. Some states are considered to lie completely within the zone. They would include Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Hawaii, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, and Vermont. That's right. At any time in those places, Border Patrol agents could randomly and without cause detain you as an American citizen for interrogation and search. Because we're all so concerned about the threat of illegal immigrants crossing the border in Honolulu and Duluth and Atlantic City. So how does a musician boycott of El Paso and West Texas fit in? Well, I don't know. It's not like the Department of Homeland Security is going to change policy because Snoop Dogg couldn't twist up a fatty on his tour bus while breezing down I-10. I know that. But maybe when some high-profile musicians publicly announce they ain't gonna play Search City, it'll bring some attention to this abuse of federal Border Patrol power. For every Snoop, Willie, or Chris Barnes we hear about getting busted at the checkpoints, there must be 20 or 100 more anonymous tokers whose lives are turned upside down over a weed bust. Let's get our Border Patrol, back to patrolling the border, not 100 miles within it, harassing American citizens. We want protection from terrorism and illegal immigration, and even if the law demands protection from cross-border drug trafficking, that's not those of us road tripping for spring break to South Padre Island with a half ounce in the surfboard case. Border Patrol was never intended to be America's domestic drug cops. All right, that's the Radical Rant for today. And when we come back, we're going to have some talk here with Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel, talk about the new stuff that's coming out, and more as we continue on the Russ Belville Show right here on National Cannabis Radio. You can text Russ to 420-420, and that way you can get connected with National Cannabis Coalition, our prime sponsor, ncc420.com for more information. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter, at NCR420 for the latest programming updates and the news as it breaks from our news department. Thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Belville. We'll be right back after these messages with Adam Hand, handmadeapparel.biz. Stay tuned.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What's up? Yo, boy Z. Puffing on some of this here Northern Lights. My boys in too deep. Baby P. Phone soldiers.
How deep is deep? It's in too deep and baby beesh. Bumping in them streets over Northern Cali beats. And can you move your feet? Tap and dance while I'm puffing on some green from them humble plants. And come on like that.
The cannabis community includes a diverse set of activists and nonprofits working to end the prohibition of marijuana. We take the time to hear the stories of reform on the Russ Belville Show's Cannabis Community Chat.
Libramator's gotten all aggressive on me. Welcome to the Cannabis Community Chat. We've got Adam Hand in the house from handmadeapparel.biz. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Oh, doing good. I got to move your camera now. You slid over on me.
It's John's fault.
It's all John's fault. We're going to blame John?
Yep, everything.
Everything's my fault.
He had nothing to do with it.
I was just sitting here just doing my job.
Hey, I got to thank you so much for the fast turnaround, the great work done on our National Cannabis Coalition polos, at National Cannabis Radio polos. We came out the first day, the Saturday of the Medical Cup there, all sporting the polos. It just looked great. It really
looked like a team.
Yeah, it looked like a team. Looked really pro. Thank you so much.
That was the point. It was great to see the crew looking all professional.
Yeah. So handmadeapparel.biz, you got, you did our stuff for our previous network. You're still doing stuff for Ganja John Show. Tell us about the products you got out lately, the new stuff.
Well, lately we been doing some stuff for Hetty T.I. I'm wearing this one right here with this reverse on it. Let's see. This was introduced at the Cup this last weekend. You might have seen that.
Yeah.
That's pretty popular. We got one more for them. This is my favorite from them. This just really...
Hetty T.I. makes titanium skillets.
T.I. being, of course...
T.I. titanium.
Right.
And that's a local boy, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Our buddy Lou making those.
And they're imprinted with these images in the bottom of the skillet.
Of the titanium. It's actually really awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Spirograph.
Yeah.
Remember that as a kid? It was Spirograph.
They call it a filla. I think it's a glass thing. And our buddy Northwest Ski Bum from the chat, this is a design I did for him. You got a guy squeezing a bud right into a dome and nail. If you can see that.
Wow, that's some grip strength there.
And this was a one-color design, and we did a three shades of gray on that, and just make it a little nicer print.
It's very nice looking.
This is the same group of guys, same color palette.
I'm wearing this one right now.
Yeah, Overgrow.
Yeah. Overgrow your government. I'm rocking it currently.
That's happening.
This one here's been a little controversial, but I think the
DARE logo.
This is a DARE logo for those listening on the podcast. The DARE logo, and it says DABS. And what does it say at the bottom, Adam?
To keep kids on point. I heard these sold really well at the Fish concert.
I'll bet they did.
Yeah, they did okay at the Cannabis Cup this weekend too.
Yeah, there was we had a big panel on dabs too. It was all the rage.
It's all the rage at my house.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's all the rage at all of our houses. And High Times, I guess, is having their first dabs cover, so this stuff's gonna blow up.
There we go. So yeah, and I also did some more artistic stuff lately. I've met this guy on Facebook named Josie Diaz, and he does some art called The Crucifixion of Mari. He has a website, and it's all about the drug war.
Now, is this Big Bappa in our chat room?
Maybe.
Is the artist here?
I don't know him in chat room. But he does some pretty cool art, and I'm digging printing it.
Yeah, he said.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Yeah, Big Bappa 8 in our chat room says, that's my art.
Adam said Josie, it's Jose.
Jose, whatever. I'm white, okay? I don't know.
I really like this shirt that he's holding up right now. I was actually rocking this one at the Cup this weekend. He gave me one of the first ones that I kind of showed off.
You have the only one out, period.
Yeah, I have the only one out, I guess. But everyone was asking me about it, so it's a super cool shirt.
And here's another one that we did with him called the Crucifixion. What is this one? This one's Herbortion.
Herbortion. Oh, I don't know.
So yeah, ask him.
I have to ask Big Bappa. Ask him in the chat room. We don't know why.
And then another friend of mine up in Washington, I felt like I wanted to give them a shout because they're great clients of ours, and they do a lot to build the community in Washington State. They have a campus where they have a yoga studio, and they do a farmer's market, and they have a dispensary on site, and they invite the public. And it's the closest thing we have in Washington to the community I've seen, like in Denver maybe, where they have really a lot of that. And recently made these for them.
Oh, very nice.
For their summer kind of launch.
Very nice. Well, Washington, I just visited them. Maybe it was even back there in May.
I like that. It's kind of like the classic style farmer's market kind of logo.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to just let people know. Hey, it's the farmer's market. Come. It's great. I drive a couple hours. Go pick up what I need.
Yeah.
Meet with some people for the day. It's sweet.
It's all good.
And my favorite lately is obviously the Pink Leaf Project.
Yes, sir.
And we got to give Brian props on this one. He's trying to spread the word on a very specific thing, and we're glad to support him.
Brian, tell him what the very specific point of Pink Leaf is.
Well, I started the Pink Leaf Project basically as a way to force the mainstream public to kind of accept that, cannabis is out there. It is a cure for cancer. I mean, it by that I mean it, inhibits the growth of certain cancer cells. And I basically, the project is to spread information saying that there are different types of cannabis out there. There's medical, recreational, and there's industrial. And the sooner people know the difference, the sooner the government knows the difference, the sooner that we can move forward with, full-blown legalization.
Absolutely. Well, we got to wind things up here for the podcast hour, but we're going to take it into hour 2. We'll also take your calls at 971-533-7111. Hanging out in the full studio here with Adam Hand from Handmade Apparel. We got Wiz Kaliko and Brian the Red and Ganja John. Canvas Carrie's taking off for the day because she needs a nap. That woman, she works so hard, so she's going to sleep away. We'll be back for hour 2 here in just a couple seconds. Stick around. For everyone here, I'm Radical Russ. And until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down.